Hi, I'm Mark Horton, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer here at Georgia Tech Research Institute. Innovation is really central to what we do at GTRI. Our national security sponsors typically bring us hard problems, and quite often it requires innovation to solve these hard problems. Innovation is important to GTRI because innovation happens when we bring researchers together from across the labs, from across different disciplines, from across different areas of specialty. Technology can evolve rather organically, just by continuing to progress along toward a solution in a steady linear path. Innovation happens though when you bring together capabilities, when you bring together researchers, and it typically alters the direction. It alters the trajectory or the path that technology development might take. The ability to bring researchers together across different disciplines and different domains enables GTRI to bring really fresh answers to hard problems for national security. And so what we're highlighting today really is a sampling of some of these great innovations that have happened throughout the history of GTRI. As you can imagine, the challenge of identifying the top 9 innovations across the history of GTRI is quite a challenge in and of itself. We wanted to make sure that we were very comprehensive in our look. And so we drew from multiple sources. We searched through GTRI archival data on historical developments and historical opinions on innovations. And we also solicited input from the researcher community as well as the senior leadership at GTRI. We amassed a large list of candidates, and then from that list of candidates, we tried to identify what was the most impactful innovation within a given decade, where the impact is really measured by the change in capabilities that it brought, the new solutions we were able to bring to sponsors, new directions of research that this innovation would then engender, and a measure of how these innovations impacted the sponsor and brought new solutions and new approaches to the hard problems. So we filtered down the list. We then took that filtered list to the senior leadership, the lab directors, the chief scientists. We got their input, and ultimately we made a decision in the CTO office about what we believed were the top innovations for each decade that fundamentally altered the course of research at GTRI, that fundamentally enabled new solutions to these hard problems. So now we come to the important part. Let's review what these top 9 innovations are over the 90 years of GTRI and spend a few minutes celebrating these great innovations and the impact they have made on GTRI's legacy.
In its earliest years, the Georgia Tech Engineering Experiment Station, EES, was staffed by graduate students and a mix of full-time and part-time researchers. Together, they built a foundation for innovative research important, as it is today, to advancing Georgia's economy. Montgomery Knight was director of Georgia Tech's School of Aerospace Engineering and also a longtime EES researcher. Helping advance the nation's fledgling rotorcraft industry, he conducted research into the aerodynamics governing the flight of helicopters and autogyros, a type of aircraft that uses an unpowered rotor instead of a wing to create lift. The Aerospace Engineering School's Montgomery Knight building was named in his honor. Other EES researchers pursued work in several areas of interest to Georgia, including developing new uses for raw materials such as cellulose produced from trees, cotton grown in the state, and kaolin mined in Middle Georgia. Since the 1950s, GTRI researchers have played a crucial role in advancing the use of millimeter wave technologies for Department of Defense and other applications. Millimeter wave technologies operate at extremely high frequencies, 30 to 300 gigahertz, at wavelengths ranging from 1 to 10 millimeters. The advantages of millimeter waves include their ability to provide accurate and high-resolution image identification and the ability to make measurements while operating through smoke, fog, or rain, but they can be susceptible to absorption by certain atmospheric conditions. GTRI researchers conducted research to identify which frequencies work best for specific applications and conditions. GTRI built the first military designation millimeter wave radar in the 1950s, providing a foundation for a series of increasingly capable systems in the decades that followed. GTRI researchers also characterized clutter and targets, providing data essential to the practical use of millimeter wave radar. To accurately measure the radar cross-section of targets or the characteristics of large antennas, A test range must mimic the large distance between the test antenna and the target that is encountered in the real-world environment. In the late 1960s, EES researcher Richard C. Johnson invented the compact range, which uses a parabolic reflector to alter a radar wave to make it seem as if the wave has traveled a long distance. The technique has been widely adopted due to its ability to measure targets accurately in small spaces, particularly indoors. Indoor ranges can reduce interference from outside sources, eliminate weather concerns, and improve security. In 1989, GTRI built the world's largest outdoor compact range for the U.S. Army at Fort Huachuca, Arizona, to measure antenna performance on full-sized vehicles. It included a 75-foot reflector and a lift to support targets up to 70 tons. Harnessing the sun's power may seem like a recent innovation, but for more than 40 years, GTRI researchers have been developing improved ways of capturing solar energy. In the 1970s, with support from the U.S. Department of Energy, they built a 325 kilowatt, 500 mirror solar thermal test facility that was then the second largest of its kind in the United States. The 500 precisely aimed mirrors focus the sun's energy on a receiver atop a tall tower visible from around campus. Researchers used the facility to capture heat for testing high-temperature materials, converting biomass to other forms of energy, and developing improved ways of storing solar energy. Using the facility, researchers developed improvements to pyrolysis, an established technique for producing liquid and gaseous fuels from biomass materials, and generated electricity with a Swedish-built external combustion engine that used pistons driven by helium heated by the intense sunlight. For industrial and other types of inspection, human eyes have amazing capabilities, but they can be undermined by their owner's boredom. Humans watching production lines could therefore use a little help from the mechanical world, specifically machine vision. As part of their work to support Georgia's poultry industry, GTRI researchers in the 1980s and 90s applied machine vision, specialized cameras, lights, and interpretation algorithms to production lines examining everything from chicken nuggets to hamburger buns. Combined with robots to accurately retrieve substandard items, the systems helped ensure high quality on processing lines. Since then, GTRI researchers have broadly applied their machine vision expertise, with the most recent application being digital train inspection portals developed in collaboration with Norfolk Southern Corporation. Advanced machine vision, combined with artificial intelligence developed by the company, examines train cars moving at speeds of up to 60 miles per hour. Falcon View is a mapping system developed by GTRI for the U.S. Department of Defense. Released for the Air National Guard in 1994, Falcon View's sponsor and user base has expanded to include all branches of the U.S. military. Today it is used by the military, various federal agencies, and allied countries for a variety of mission planning, intelligence, and operational tasks. Falcon View serves as the mapping interface for mission planning software suites, including the Joint Mission Planning System, Portable Flight Planning System, and X-Plan. Falcon View displays various types of maps, including aeronautical charts, satellite imagery, and elevation maps. It also supports a large number of geographically referenced overlays that can be displayed and printed over any map background. Combined with a global positioning system receiver, Falcon View serves as a navigation system on several airborne, land, and sea platforms, providing real-time situational awareness in transit. Quantum computers harness quantum mechanics to solve certain otherwise intractable problems. For the past 2 decades, GTRI researchers have been advancing the ability to control and measure quantum states of ions, one of the most promising quantum computer architectures. Researchers have designed, fabricated, and demonstrated a number of ion traps and state-of-the-art components to support integrated systems. Researchers have also devised new quantum gates with record fidelity demonstrated novel fast cooling schemes, built entirely new ion trap architectures, and investigated computing methods that break algorithms into pieces to be executed in parallel on quantum and classical machines to harness the strengths of each. Over the last decade, researchers have applied similar tools to develop quantum sensors and atomic clocks. These devices, operating at the fundamental limits of nature, offer improved sensitivity or stability for sensing electromagnetic fields, measuring acceleration, or serving as highly stable frequency references. More than a decade ago, GTRI began development of the Angry Kitten system to help counter rapidly evolving electronic warfare threats. Angry Kitten electronic attack pods have been flying on F-16s since 2017 and on F-18 test jets since 2021. In 2023, General Atomics began integration of the pods onto the MQ-9 Reaper, where they have potential applications in test and evaluation, as well as possible combat roles. The pods have also been integrated onto A-10 aircraft by the Air National Guard, with multiple flights, including the 2023 Northern Edge Large Force exercise, during which F-16s and A-10s equipped with the pods fought mock battles against fifth-generation fighters. During 2024, the Air National Guard plans to complete an operational assessment of the pods for use on Guard F-16s in a combat role. This is a follow-on to an earlier Air Combat Command operational assessment. Most recently, GTRI researchers are helping address the challenge of archivally storing the overwhelming volume of data that must be retained but is seldom retrieved. With funding from the Intelligence Advanced Research Projects activity, researchers have collaborated with 2 California companies to advance a technique that could use synthetic DNA to store that data. DNA data storage uses the 4 bases that make up biological DNA: adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine, to store data in a way that is analogous to the zeros and ones of traditional computing. Researchers have made significant advances toward the goal of a new microchip able to grow DNA strands that could provide high-density 3D archival data storage at ultra-low cost and be able to hold that information for centuries. Researchers have also developed a correction system able to compensate for errors in reading data stored in the DNA.
Well, what a fantastic set of accomplishments we have to celebrate here today. And again, let me reiterate, these are the top 9 that we have chosen. Arguably, you could have easily developed your own list of 9 that might be different than our list. What we really want to celebrate today is innovation at GTRI, and the history of innovation can be demonstrated by these top 9 innovations over the last 90 years. But the innovation didn't stop with the last 90 years. We're moving forward into a future where we're building on these innovations and we're accelerating the impact of what we're doing here at GTRI in our research. Let me speak briefly now to where we are headed in the future at GTRI. As you know, we have identified 5 strategic technologies that we are focusing on. These are technologies that integrate capabilities across our labs. These are areas that really define where we see ourselves being differentiated over the coming decades. We're focusing on getting AI right for national security. We're focusing on resilient cyber-physical systems. We're focusing on decision superiority at the contested edge. We're focusing on integrated autonomy. We're focusing on all of these areas because we believe these are the areas that GTRI can and should be thought leaders, where we should be who the sponsor approaches to solve these hard problems. As an example, let me mention a couple of thoughts about AI. The challenge with AI that we are addressing at GTRI is how can we trust the solutions we're given? How can we trust the answers that AI gives us? If AI is used to recommend a movie for me to watch, then the consequences aren't that great. But when commanders on the battlefield use AI to generate recommended actions based on the fusion of data and information from the battlefield, then we have to be much more confident in the quality of the information that is being generated and given to us. So what we're doing at GTRI is focusing on how can we trust the information that is provided to us by AI, machine learning type systems. These are nonlinear time-varying dynamical systems, and that means we don't have a lot of mathematical formalities that can apply. That means there are clear bounds on the amount of trust that we can put into these systems. We're trying to develop both algorithms that can be trusted as well as methods to do test and verification on existing algorithms to measure how much trust can be placed in them. So to us at GTRI, developing the models, developing the tools, developing the processes that allow us to make good decisions in contested environments using AI and machine learning based tools, trust becomes fundamentally important. In addition to our 5 strategic pursuit areas, we also have 2 new ventures. These are our big bets. The 5 strategic pursuits are areas where our sponsors know we are the experts. The 2 big bets are areas where we believe we can become thought leaders for our sponsors, but to do so we're having to reach across campus and reach into the expertise that exists across the academic units of campus. One of our big bets is called the Intersections of Biology and Engineering, or IBE. In IBE, we're fortunate to be able to draw from the academic units at Georgia Tech, but we also are able to partner with the Medical School of Emory University. And this provides us a really unique and powerful combination of capabilities, from the curiosity-driven research on campus to the solutions-pulled applied research here at GTRI, together with the medical school expertise of Emory. This enables us to solve some very important hard problems for national security and to also work to enhance the quality of life through this technology. Another big bet we have is in space. By reaching across campus and tapping into the expertise of the colleges and schools at Georgia Tech and the experience we have here at GTRI, we're beginning to look beyond Earth orbit to how can we solve problems for national security beyond Earth orbit. As a university-affiliated research center, I believe we are further differentiated by the extent to which we reach into campus and we collaborate across campus. This is a really powerful differentiator for GTRI. When the national security sponsors come to us to develop innovations to solve hard problems, they're not just coming to GTRI, but they're coming to all of Georgia Tech. We're very intentional in investing in collaborative research on campus. Our IRAD program this past year funded a little over 300 projects. 25% of those projects were collaborative projects with campus. We invest a significant portion of our IRAD budget in projects that are specifically intended to collaborate with campus. We fund graduate students, we fund faculty members, and we seek to drive innovation in basic research that we can then apply to the hard problems of our national security sponsor. And in that sense, we bring a very strong capability and a very rich set of innovation and capabilities to our national security sponsors. So we've had a fascinating look at the past. What are the top 9 innovations that have really defined us and created the culture at GTRI over our 90 years? So now let's think about the future. What will be that next innovation that defines us in the next decade? What are the hard problems that are driving us now to continue to innovate, to continue to bring fresh answers to the hard problems that we face today and in the future? I think that's part of why it's exciting to be at GTRI, is because we have the opportunity to think about the future. We have the opportunity to tackle the hardest problems that our nation faces today. And in so doing, we bring innovation that can only be generated at Georgia Tech.